One of the things I haven't heard yet so far, I'd like to propose, we've talked around the subject. We haven't developed a model to discuss what a competence is, or a competency, or a skill, or a proficiency, or a level of expertise, or a field of expertise. So we certainly have talked around this a great deal. To maybe give a bit more form to this, could we look at discussing and potentially agreeing to a model of what a competence looks like? A generally accepted approach is a competence as a way to measure performance in learning and demonstrate mastery. It consists generally of a competency, a proficiency, and a context. So if we could at least come to, anybody else could propose an alternative model, but right now we're just talking about topics. We talk about knowledge sharing, that's not a competency at all. You have to be able to measure the competency, especially for teaching, as well as in the workplace from a performance evaluation perspective.
Well, I can say one thing we do in Shell is we do use competences, and we use a model where you identify the competence and then you evaluate it: awareness, knowledge, skill, mastery, or create new. Is kind of the way we do that, and then each one of those has specific definitions to the competence. So we do have competences around change management, stakeholder engagement, business partnering, delivering results to others. We have probably 100 of them, depending on what your field is, and there's a mixture of leadership and manager behaviors ones, and also technical competences for your field. So I think there's a lot of models out there that could be used.
I think that measuring knowledge sharing, we measure knowledge sharing all the time, by the number of the usage that's out there, how people use the information. That's all tracked internally through the system by how those people are doing, and or by facilitated session with them telling us how they're doing it. So you can track a lot of things that may not look like a competency or be an attribute of knowledge management. But I think, to your point, there's a lot of competencies already out there. So again, if you would take those classifications, position descriptions, work classifications, and if you'd look at those collectively across the 50 organizations, and then take your model and say, okay, let's frame one and say, which of these competencies work for a knowledge management content manager? So let's build the competency set from a knowledge perspective, and then I think you've got to also add in the qualitative, which is like the customer service side, the project management side, the analytical thinking side, and how do you train the knowledge transformation side of leveraging knowledge and creating knowledge, disseminating knowledge. So building that in that's just a team that comes together and starts to codify everything and put it together and say, okay, I've got 6 drafts here of 6 competencies, or I think Denise said we had 10 competencies you're looking at. Take the 10 competencies, break it up into 10 groups, have them go out and package this all up, come back for a draft review of that information amongst this group of peers or other people on the committee to do that.
Can I just respond to that too real quick? I think there's 2 points of view. One is the knowledge management professional point of view and the competencies that relate to that. And obviously I agree with the job description, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that, again, I'm more interested in the side of how to get people within the organization to do knowledge management and how to affect the business. And from that point of view, PwC has 4 competencies. And these 4 competencies apply to everybody in the organization. One is share knowledge. Another one is build relationships. Another one is in each other's shoes. And the last one is provide quality. And those 4 competencies are across every job. And it goes back to the knowledge worker point of view of everybody's being judged the same way, including all of our partners. And those 4 competencies, including share knowledge as being number 1, are the way that we are measured every year in our performance management system, how we're given bonuses, and how we're rated in the sense of our raises. So share knowledge and the ability to measure it, at least within our organization, is considered to be something through performance reviews that we receive from our supervisors, from performance notes that we receive from our clients, as well as from specific examples of how we've affected value to the business.
Denise, would you repeat those once more very slowly? Those 4.
Do I talk too fast? I'm sorry.
Yes, you do.
Share knowledge.
We all do when we get excited.
Share knowledge. Build relationships. In each other's shoes. lights in each other's shoes. In other words, you can put yourself into your peers, your supervisor, your employees, your clients' shoes to understand their perspective on the knowledge that they either need from you or they need you to share with them. And then the last one is provide quality. Quality work.
Good.
I'm gonna,
Thank you.
I know you're getting started now, but you know what? We're going to actually take a break. And this is actually a good segue because you're going to see the next round of questions, which is open, is talking about what competencies do you feel are necessary for KM professionals. So this actually came to a good point, and now we're going to engage everybody and try to capture at those 4 levels what competencies you think need to be. Based on your experiences and where you know, the projects you've worked on, the research, what have you seen that works and doesn't work? These competencies that people need. If you had a great knowledge manager, what were some of their skills? What were some of their experiences? What were some of their abilities that we need to capture to know that these are possibly the competencies that someone needs to come into one of these positions? So with that, the first question that comes out of the open is, based on your experience, and who has the other mic? Because I want to be prepared. Good. Remember to please speak into the mics because remember we are recording this and we are online. So the first question is, based on your experience, research, and perceptions, what are the competencies you feel are needed for the executive? Which we're talking about the strategic, and because we kind of threw out the C level, we'll just say the executive level, KM roles, and which responsibilities would they align with? So think about what are those roles and what are the responsibilities and competencies that go along with that? And so let's start talking with that. We don't have to go around to each of the panelists. They can speak, you can speak. This is more of an open discussion, okay? Anybody want to kick it off? There you go.
Thanks. Again, I'm Linda Stoddard from Columbia University. I'm the academic director for a new master's program, which is a Master of Science in Information and Knowledge Strategy. I just want to say a couple of words before I will give you some of my ideas for what I think is really key in this whole field. But I think the whole knowledge area is just a new way of working. We know that organizations have to work in a different way. We have flatter organizational structures. Participation and collaboration is the way we are going to work. We're never going to go backwards again. We won't have hierarchical structures anymore. We won't have bureaucracies in the way that we had it before. So it just goes without saying that the competencies for everyone have changed. And particularly for managers. The program that we are developing is about management and leadership in the knowledge domain. It's not for knowledge professionals. It's for managers. It's sort of the new MBA. It's really looking at management in a different way. It's looking at knowledge and information as the core business, of one of the core businesses for any organization. So what are the competencies in the light of what I just said? Analysis and synthesis, so getting the bigger picture, the diagnostic rule, which was mentioned earlier in one of the panelists, and I won't go for a long list, but judgment and collaboration, knowing and how the whole sense of engagement. Thanks.
Somebody was talking at break about the CEOs turning over and executives turning over, and every 4 years there's a new somebody in there. And the one thing I've learned about the executive level is you constantly got to be educating them as to what's the value proposition for knowledge management in your organization, and demonstratable results, because they're not into theory or context or whatever. They're into show me the money. Show me how it helps affect my organization, either make me the leader, brand me better, help service our customers that generates better revenue, for the bottom line. And when I thought about this, it was, your question there, it was, if you're going to take executives at the C level and say, how do we develop competencies for them? Here's some that I came up with. One, they have to have an awareness and understanding of KM approaches and tools. Most of them at that senior level, I got to tell you, and I've seen in many organizations, Stan and others have as well, They just don't get it. It's so far removed from it. My kids do that. I don't touch computers, or I don't do that. You know, believe me, they do. And but that's getting them to be aware and understanding what KM approaches, value, and demonstrable results can be, and the tools that are being used. Two, it's an ability to explain KM and the value of KM to the organization in a way that people can relate to this. Now, this is them at the very top, being able to explain to their peers and to people that report directly to them what the value is. Because when you begin to see them explain and it cascades down, that's when you begin to see your organization change. People get on board. He or she really gets this. I better get it, or you know, I won't have a career here. Three was oversee the improvement of KM initiatives and core business processes. That's beginning to take something that changes in a business line or something that needs to change, like you did at General Motors and things. And driving that with executive sponsorship is, we're going to change this business line to be more productive, to be more creative, to be whatever, more innovative in your model here. And then last was to provide the sponsorship of critical KM activities. If they're at the top and they've got that senior level decision-making authority, and they give you the bless on this and you're good to go, trust me, you're going to be successful. We were very successful for the last 20 years at doing that because it got the blessing of the people at the top, because they saw the demonstrated results. We actually did projected, here's where your revenue increased because of the knowledge, investment in knowledge management, exponentially. And when they saw that, they could relate to that.